The day the sky burned, humanity learned a terrible truth. The universe had been watching them, and had decided they were nothing. At exactly noon, across every time zone on Earth, the stars vanished. Not slowly. Not gently. They disappeared as if erased by a careless hand. Millions of people stopped what they were doing and looked up. Planes froze in midair. Highways turned into graveyards of abandoned cars. Above the planet, enormous shapes slid out of nothingness, black, angular, and silent. Alien warships. Thousands of them. And in that moment, every human instinct screamed the same word: run. From the command deck of the alien flagship Dominion Spear, Overseer Kaelrix watched Earth rotate beneath him. Blue oceans. Green land. A living world, loud with radio signals and chaotic movement. He felt no awe. Only boredom. Kaelrix had overseen the subjugation of 9 worlds. This one was loud, divided, and technologically crude. Easy prey. Begin planetary broadcast, Kaelrix said. His voice invaded every human device at once. Screens flickered. Radios crackled. Even devices without power came alive for just long enough to carry his words. Species designation: human. You now exist under the authority of the Ashen Accord. Your planet has been claimed. All military resistance must cease immediately. All governments will dissolve within 1 standard hour. Compliance will ensure survival. Defiance will ensure extinction. Then the message ended. For several long seconds, Earth was silent. Then chaos erupted. Governments scrambled. Militaries mobilized. Religious leaders prayed. Stock markets collapsed in minutes. Social networks exploded with fear, denial, and rage. Some people screamed. Some cried. Some laughed hysterically. Humanity had always believed that if aliens ever came, it would be peaceful. Or at least negotiable. Kaelrix gave them 60 minutes. They used every second. At the end of the hour, Earth had not surrendered. Kaelrix was mildly surprised. Mildly annoyed. Demonstration, he ordered. 1 ship detached from the fleet and fired a single beam at a coastal city. The energy did not explode. It peeled reality apart. Buildings vanished. Water turned to steam. 2 million lives ended in less than a second. Kaelrix broadcast again. This was mercy. The next will not be. Still, no surrender came. What Kaelrix did not understand, what his kind had never understood, was that humans did not think as a single voice. There was no switch labeled submit. Instead, something older and more dangerous woke up inside them. Defiance. Within hours, borders stopped mattering. Enemies stopped fighting each other. Militaries opened their vaults. Scientists were flown across continents without paperwork. Underground bunkers became command centers. Civilian factories turned into weapon plants. Hackers, engineers, farmers, doctors, everyone was pulled into the same current. Not because anyone told them to. Because something had threatened their home. The Ashen Accord began ground deployment on the 2nd day. Dropships fell like meteors into major cities. Alien soldiers, tall, armored, confident, marched into streets they expected to control. They were wrong. In Seoul, alien patrols vanished inside alleyways rigged with homemade explosives. In Cairo, civilians lured armored units into collapsing tunnels. In Chicago, a train was deliberately derailed beneath a landing platform, destroying it from below. Humans died by the thousands. They knew they would. They attacked anyway. Sergeant Maya Alvarez fought in what used to be downtown Los Angeles. She was not a hero. She had been a mechanic before the invasion. Now she carried a stolen alien rifle that burned her hands every time it fired. She watched her squad fall one by one. When the rifle overheated and died, she picked up a metal pipe and charged. She did not survive the day. But the alien unit she attacked did not either. Reports like that flooded alien command channels. Casualties far above projections. Resistance patterns illogical. Suicide charges. Traps built from trash and wreckage. Humans fighting without orders, retreat, or fear? Kael'rix stared at the data in disbelief. They are exhausting themselves, one of his commanders said. They cannot sustain this. But humans did. They learned fast. Within weeks, captured alien tech was being dismantled in underground labs. Human engineers failed hundreds of times. Then thousands. Then they succeeded. Shields were cracked. Power cells reverse-engineered. Weapons rebuilt to fit human hands. The Ashen Accord noticed too late. The first human counterstrike happened at night. A single alien supply station vanished in orbit, hit by something small, fast, and screaming through space like a bullet with a mind of its own. The alien fleet panicked. Kael'rix demanded answers. How did they build that? No one had one. On Earth, people watched the explosion light up the sky. For the first time since the invasion, they cheered. Not because they thought they were winning, but because they knew something now. The invaders could bleed. Kael'rix ordered full planetary suppression. Continents burned. Cities vanished. The death toll climbed into the tens of millions. And still, humans did not stop. They adapted faster. They began to hunt. Alien officers were ambushed. Communications hacked. Entire battalions vanished in forests and mountains where humans had lived for thousands of years. Places maps could not save you from. Kael'rix finally felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Fear. From deep space, something new emerged. Not large. Not elegant. A rough, scarred vessel pushed together from stolen technology and human stubbornness. Painted on its hull were simple words, in dozens of languages. We are still here. Kael'rix watched it fire. And for the first time in his long career, he understood the mistake he had made. They had not conquered humanity. They had united it. And the fire he brought to Earth had only taught humans how to burn brighter. The first human ship did not look impressive by alien standards. Its hull was uneven, patched with plates from different alloys. Its engines burned too hot and too loud. Its weapons were unstable, dangerous even to its own crew. But it moved with purpose. With anger. Overseer Kael'rix watched from the Dominion spear as the ship tore through an Ashen Accord patrol like a knife through cloth. 3 escort vessels died before they could even align their weapons. The human ship did not slow down. It did not retreat. It accelerated straight toward the larger cruiser, fired everything it had, and then rammed the enemy's reactor core. Both ships vanished in a starburst of white fire. Silence filled the command deck. That was irrational, one of Kael'rix's strategists whispered. No, Kael'rix said slowly. That was intentional. Across Earth, similar scenes unfolded. Human strike craft appeared without warning, hit alien positions, and vanished. Sometimes they escaped. Sometimes they did not. But every attack followed the same pattern. Maximum damage, no hesitation, no surrender. Humans had stopped trying to survive. They were trying to win. In a hardened bunker beneath the ruins of Helsinki, Commander Elias Rourke studied a hologram of space above Earth. He was exhausted. Everyone was. His left arm was synthetic now, built from alien servos after a bombing took the real one. He did not complain. We can't match them ship for ship, he said to the gathered leaders and scientists. So we don't. A young engineer named Priya Malhotra nodded. Her hands shook slightly as she adjusted the display. Alien doctrine depends on centralized command and supply lines. They don't expect asymmetric warfare on a planetary scale. Rourke smiled grimly. Good. Because that's all we've ever been good at. The new strategy spread across the planet within hours. Not through orders, but understanding. Human fleets broke into small, fast-moving groups. They struck fuel depots, relay stations, repair docks. They ignored frontline warships and went for the soft targets behind them. The Ashen Accord began to starve. Alien commanders demanded reinforcements. Kael'rix requested permission to deploy planetary annihilation weapons. The response from his superiors was cold. Finish it with what you have. Do not escalate. The humans are insignificant. Kael'rix closed the channel in silence. He no longer believed that. On the ground, the war changed shape. Human resistance cells coordinated across continents. Farmers guided fighters through fields turned into killing grounds. City survivors memorized alien patrol patterns and fed data to orbital teams. Children carried messages when networks went dark. Elderly volunteers worked in factories until they collapsed. Humanity had become a weapon. One night, an alien command center in what used to be northern Canada went offline. Galactic sent a recon drone. The footage it returned showed something impossible. The base was intact. The soldiers were dead. Every alien lay carefully placed in rows, weapons stacked beside them. No signs of struggle. No explosions. Only a symbol burned into the ground outside the base, carved deep into the frozen earth. A simple human word. Enough. Galactic felt his confidence fracture. How did they breach the shields? He demanded. They didn't, an analyst replied, voice trembling. They waited. They studied our power cycles. They entered during a maintenance window we didn't think they could detect. Galactic realized then that humans were no longer copying alien technology. They were improving it. The Ashen Accord attempted a decisive strike. A massive orbital bombardment aimed at breaking Earth's last manufacturing centers. Hundreds of ships aligned, weapons charging. They never fired. Human saboteurs had already been there. Embedded years earlier during the chaos of invasion, hiding in plain sight as refugees and slaves. They detonated synchronized charges inside alien ships. Reactors failed. Fleets collided. Fire bloomed across orbit like a ring of dying stars. Galactic watched half his remaining force die without firing a shot. For the first time, he issued a full retreat order. Some ships obeyed. Others did not make it. In the wreckage of low Earth orbit, a human fleet assembled. It was still smaller. Still weaker on paper. But it moved as one, like a living thing. At its center flew a larger ship than the others, its hull painted dark red. On its bridge stood Captain Noah Cade, former cargo pilot, now fleet commander. He looked at the alien vessels fleeing the system. "Do we pursue?" an officer asked. Cade shook his head. "Not yet." He opened a channel to every human ship. "They came here thinking we would break," he said. "They were wrong. But this isn't over. They'll come back with more ships. Bigger guns." The crews listened in silence. "So we make sure they don't," Cade continued. "We take this fight somewhere they don't expect." A course was plotted. Not toward safety. Not toward defense. Toward the heart of the Ashen Accord. On the alien homeworlds, warnings finally spread. Reports of human adaptability. Of worlds refusing to surrender even after orbital fire. Of small fleets causing impossible damage. Many dismissed them. One species did not. The Kalari Union quietly began evacuating border systems. Their historians had seen this before, in ancient records of predators that grew stronger when wounded. They watched human ships cross the void and whispered a single thought in fear. "They are coming." As the first human fleet left Earth behind, millions watched from the surface. There was no cheering this time. Only quiet resolve. Humanity had been ignored. Humanity had been burned. And now, humanity was done asking to be left alone. The first human fleet entered deep space without ceremony. No speeches. No banners. Just ships moving forward with quiet determination. Behind them lay a wounded Earth. Ahead of them lay a galaxy that still believed humans were a mistake that could be erased. Captain Noah Cade stood alone on the bridge of the flagship Resolute Dawn. The stars stretched endlessly before him. Every jump forward took them farther from home and closer to enemies who had never imagined humans would come knocking. "This is it," one of the navigators said softly. "No turning back." Cade nodded. "We turned back once already. That was when they burned our cities. Never again." The fleet's first target was not a military world. It was a logistics hub, an Ashen Accord system that fed fuel, food, and replacement parts to 3 nearby fleets. Alien planners had considered it untouchable. Too far from Earth. Too well protected. Too boring for primitives to notice. Human analysts noticed everything. The attack began with silence. Human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel far from detection range. They drifted, dark and cold, 4 hours. Then small craft detached, barely larger than escape pods, sliding through space like debris. Inside them were engineers, soldiers, and volunteers who knew they might never return. They cut their way into the station from the inside. No alarms sounded. No weapons fired. By the time the station realized it was under attack, its reactors were already destabilizing. Human ships reappeared just long enough to evacuate their teams. The station collapsed into itself, folding space and fire into a glowing wound. 3 alien fleets went dark within days. Across the Ashen Accord, panic spread. How are they finding these targets? They shouldn't be able to navigate this far. They're not following doctrine. That last complaint was the most troubling. The galaxy ran on rules. Predictable responses. Escalation patterns. Humans ignored them all. In a council chamber light years away, Elder Archivist Seln of the Kalari Union listened to the reports in silence. He had lived long enough to recognize a pattern forming. They are not fighting like a civilization, he said finally. They are fighting like survivors. Other representatives scoffed. They are still few. Their resources are limited. Seln turned his many eyes toward them. So were they when they fought each other for thousands of years. Did that stop them? No one answered. Meanwhile, human fleets continued their advance. They avoided strongholds and struck arteries. Communication relays vanished. Trade routes burned. Slave worlds rose in rebellion as human ships broadcast a simple message in dozens of languages. You are not alone. We bleed too. On the ground of a mining world called Tarath 9, enslaved workers watched alien overseers flee as human marines stormed the compound. Sergeant Lena Okoye kicked down the final door and found hundreds of frightened beings huddled inside. We're not here to rule you, she said simply. We're here to end this. Word spread faster than any signal. Humans were not conquering. They were dismantling. The Ashen Accord responded with brutality. Entire rebel worlds were glassed. Millions died. The galaxy waited for humans to retreat, to reconsider. They did not. Each destroyed world hardened them further. Human engineers refined their ships using captured alien cores. Human pilots trained with brutal efficiency, simulating impossible scenarios until they could fly through them. Losses were heavy, but morale never broke. Because every sacrifice meant something. Overseer Kaelrix watched the situation collapse from what remained of his command fleet. His reports to High Command grew more urgent. They are not slowing, he warned. They are learning faster than we can adapt. Every battle teaches them something. The response came days later. You are exaggerating. Finish your campaign or step aside. Kaelrix stared at the message long after it ended. For the first time in his life, he understood fear not as a threat, but as certainty. Humanity's greatest strike came without warning. They did not attack a fleet. They attacked the Ashen Accord's central data vault. The vault contained everything: maps, history, population data, contingency plans. It was the brain of an empire that had never imagined losing control of information. Human hackers and tacticians worked together for weeks. When the breach finally happened, the vault did not explode. It spoke. Across the galaxy, screens activated. Civilian terminals. Military displays. Personal devices. They showed recordings. Alien atrocities. Enslavement. Executions. Worlds erased for profit and convenience. Then a human voice followed. We are humanity. We were attacked. We survived. We learned who you really are. And now everyone knows. The Ashen Accord's power fractured overnight. Allies withdrew. Client species revolted. Neutral powers armed themselves and closed borders. The galaxy did not unite against humanity. It united against the Ashen Accord. As human fleets regrouped at the edge of known space, Captain Cade looked over the growing armada. Ships of many shapes now joined them, alien designs flying beside human ones. An officer approached him quietly. "Sir, we're not alone anymore." Cade nodded. "We never were. We just didn't know it yet." Far away, on the shattered remains of an alien throne world, Overseer Caelrix watched flames consume the symbols of his empire. "They ignored us," he whispered. "And now—" He did not finish the thought. Because the galaxy had finally started to listen. The Ashen Accord did not collapse quietly. Empires never do. As revolt spread and allied species withdrew, the ruling council made a decision born of desperation and pride. If they could not control the galaxy, they would scar it so deeply that no one would dare rise again. They authorized Protocol Ashfall. It was a forbidden plan, sealed for centuries. A network of stellar weapons hidden inside unstable stars. Detonations designed not just to destroy worlds, but to poison entire systems, rendering them lifeless for thousands of years. If humanity could not be stopped, then everything would burn with them. The first star died without warning. A peaceful trade system vanished in a bloom of impossible light. Planets cracked. Moons shattered. Billions of lives ended in silence. The galaxy froze in horror. Human sensors detected the anomaly within minutes. Captain Noah Cade stood rigid as the data streamed in. "That wasn't a weapon," one analyst whispered. "That was an execution." Admiral Renee Holt, former astrophysicist turned fleet commander, closed her eyes. "They're not trying to win anymore. They're trying to punish existence." Human command did not hesitate. For the first time, humanity revealed what it had been building in secret. Deep beneath Earth's surface, hidden shipyards powered up. Not fleets, but foundries. Humans had learned something terrifying during the war. Alien weapons focused on destruction. Human weapons focused on control. The first of the firebreak vessels launched, ships designed not to destroy stars, but to stabilize them. Using reverse-engineered alien tech and human improvisation, they could enter stellar cores and neutralize ashfall charges. It was insane. It worked. Human crews volunteered knowing the survival rate was less than 10%. They went anyway. Because if they did not, billions more would die. Across multiple systems, firebreak ships plunged into burning suns, wrestling with forces no species had ever challenged directly. Some vanished forever. Others emerged shattered but victorious, stars saved and civilizations spared. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. "They are protecting worlds that are not theirs," whispered diplomats and warlords alike. Humanity was no longer just fighting an enemy. They were defending the future. The Ashen Accord responded with its last fleet, everything it had left. Thousands of warships converged on one point, Earth. If they could erase the human homeworld, the legend would die with it. Caelrix, now stripped of rank but kept alive for his knowledge, stood on the bridge of the final command ship. He knew what was coming. "They will not break," he said quietly. "They will burn us first." The fleet entered Earth's system to find something impossible waiting. Human ships. Thousands of them. Not just human. Alien allies flew beside them, former slaves, defectors, species that had listened too late but would not repeat the mistake. Captain Cade opened a galaxy-wide channel. "This ends here," he said. "You came to erase us. You failed. Leave now, or face the fire you taught us to make." The Ashen Accord answered with weapons fire. The final battle was chaos. Human pilots flew with reckless brilliance, weaving through enemy lines, sacrificing ships to protect evacuation corridors. Alien allies followed their lead, abandoning rigid doctrine for raw survival tactics. Admiral Holt commanded the Firebreak Division, intercepting ashfall carriers before they could deploy. When one slipped through, she rammed it herself. Her last transmission was calm. "For Earth," she said. "For everyone." The enemy fleet began to crumble. Caelrix watched his empire die in real time. Not with a scream, but with understanding. They had underestimated a species that turned pain into purpose. As the last Ashen Accord battleship exploded, Earth's skies cleared for the first time in years. Humanity had not just survived annihilation. They had stopped it. And the galaxy understood something new. Humans did not seek domination. But if pushed, they would end you. The war ended without celebration. No cheers echoed through Earth cities. No victory parades filled the streets. Humanity had learned something during the invasion. Survival changed you, and victory came with weight. The stars above Earth were finally visible again. For the first time in years, children could look up and see constellations instead of warships. Adults stood silently on rooftops and open fields, not speaking, just breathing. The noise of fear was gone, replaced by something quieter and deeper. Resolve. Captain Noah Cade stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, watching the last fragments of the Ashen Accord fleet drift away as debris. Around him, human and allied ships held position, not in triumph, but in vigilance. Casualty reports are final, an officer said softly. Earth lost nearly 1 billion people. Cade closed his eyes. Every name mattered. Every loss carved itself into humanity's memory. They would never forget the price. Across the galaxy, the collapse of the Ashen Accord sent shockwaves through every known civilization. Slave empires dissolved overnight. Occupied worlds declared independence. Ancient treaties were rewritten in panic and hope. And everywhere, the same question spread. What happens now that humans are here? On the neutral world of Valorum, representatives from dozens of species gathered in a chamber once reserved for conquerors. Now it was empty of chains, guards, and weapons. In the center stood a simple human delegation. No crowns, no armor. Dr. Amora Voss spoke for Earth. "We did not come to rule," she said. "We came because we were attacked. We came because no one listened when we were burned." Her words were calm, honest. "But understand this," she continued. "If you enslave, if you erase worlds, if you believe strength gives you the right to destroy, we will come again." No threats followed. None were needed. Even the oldest species in the chamber felt it. Humanity did not posture. They remembered too well what unchecked power became. Former Overseer Kaelrix was brought before the assembly days later. No chains bound him. No guards touched him. He looked smaller than he once had, his scales dulled, his eyes tired. "You asked why we fought you," Dr. Voss said. "Why we didn't surrender." Kaelrix answered quietly. "Because you could not." "No," she corrected gently. "Because we chose not to." Kaelrix bowed his head. "We thought fear would break you." Voss met his gaze. "Fear taught us who we were." The tribunal spared his life. Not out of mercy, but as a reminder. Kaelrix would live to watch the galaxy change into something his empire had tried to prevent. Humanity returned home, but they did not retreat. Shipyards expanded beyond Earth. Joint colonies formed with freed species. Human engineers helped rebuild worlds scarred by ashfall weapons. Firebreak technology was shared freely, ensuring no star would ever be turned into a weapon again. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humans rebuilt worlds they had never seen before the war. Years passed. Human children grew up knowing alien friends, learning languages that had once commanded fleets. Veterans taught history, not to glorify war, but to explain why vigilance mattered. And everywhere, one truth became law without ever being written. You do not threaten Earth. Because the galaxy remembered. They remembered a species that had been ignored, dismissed, and burned. A species that should have broken, but instead united. A species that turned suffering into strength, loss into learning, and rage into purpose. Humanity had not conquered the stars. They had earned their respect. Far beyond known space, sensors detected something watching. A silent observer civilization, ancient and cautious, reviewed humanity's history with careful attention. Their final report was brief. Classification: humanity. Threat level: existential, if provoked. Recommendation: friendship. Back on Earth, Noah Cade stood beneath a clear night sky with his daughter. She pointed at the stars. "Are there bad ones out there?" she asked. Cade thought of burning cities. Of lost friends. Of worlds saved. Yes, he said honestly. But they know something now. What? He smiled faintly. That ignoring humans has consequences. Above them, the universe stretched wide and quiet. And for the first time, it listened. Milky Way fire,